Hello there, I'm Matteo, the Chief Mobile Opinionist at Tech Travel Geeks, and this is the Tech Travel Geeks comparison between the Nokia 1.3 and the Nokia 2.2. Both are affordable smartphones from Nokia with very similar specifications, but there is some very important differences you should probably be aware of. If you don't already, please do subscribe to the Tech Travel Geeks here on YouTube. You'll be supporting us by doing so. Right then, I've decided to compare these two smartphones, the Nokia 1.3 and Nokia 2.2, because that's something we promised in our last video, the unboxing of the Nokia 1.3, and it's important to know the differences, considering that they seem to be in the same price range. So the Nokia 1.3 bought SIM-free on Amazon is £79.95, whereas the Nokia 2.2 is £98.98. So what do you get more for this, and is it that important? Right then, so the most important difference is the fact that the Nokia 2.2, in this case, is running the stock software from Nokia and Google, is an Android One device. You can see that on the back here. There is an Android One logo just there at the bottom. This means that it's a full version of Android, owned in terms of user experience by Google, which gets timely security updates and relatively timely operating system updates from Google and Nokia. Whereas the Nokia 1.3 is very similar in terms of specifications, but it's running Android Go Edition. This is Android 10 Go Edition, which means that it is a cut-down version of Android, optimized for devices with low specifications, lower amounts of memory and storage, and therefore the apps are much more lightweight, they rely on your network connection more, and the Android Go apps are also more web-based. So an example of this would be just looking at the launcher. Let me unlock. So just looking at the launcher, it looks very, very similar. So you see there are two things. Now, screen-wise, the resolution is identical. 720 by 1520 and 720 by 1520. But the colors are much deeper and clearer on the Nokia 2.2 rather than on the 1.3. So the first impression is there. The launcher itself has an app drawer, and you'll see that there are certain apps here which are different. For example, YouTube has YouTube Go, a cut-down version of YouTube. Let's look at the difference in user interface. So they look the same on surface, but you can see there's a few extra buttons at the bottom here. On the standard version of YouTube, it's much more Spartan version on YouTube Go. And it does allow you to download videos, as the main YouTube app does here in the UK, but there are a few other experience bits which are a bit cut down. Another thing to look at is the app launcher. So the Nokia 2.2, having a full version of Android, gives you gesture navigation and the new pill-like experience for multitasking. Whereas multitasking on Android Go is driven by the three buttons at the bottom, and you can see it's a much more basic screenshot interface for going through your open apps. So in the case of full Android, you get that. Even though the Nokia 2.2 is currently running Android 9, it's a more complete Android experience. But then again, there is a price difference, and there is also a difference in general specifications. So he says the Nokia 1.3 is running Android Go Edition, Android 10. This is currently running Android 9. It's expected to get Android 10 through the Android One program. Now, screen resolution, we've said, is identical, but the screen quality is much better on the Nokia 2.2. Another thing to consider is the specifications inside. So the chipset in the Nokia 1.3 is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 215. This is an older style chipset from Qualcomm. It's essentially a repurposed watch chipset or a repurposed Snapdragon 4 series chip, but it is quite an old one, despite being quad-core and being energy efficient. Whereas the Nokia 2.2 has a MediaTek chipset, a completely different type of chipset, which is 12 nanometers. Much more efficient energy-wise, it's faster, almost 50% faster, and it has a better graphics chipset, so as far as games are concerned, it will be better. The other important thing is memory. So the Nokia 2.2 has 2 gigabytes of RAM, the Nokia 1.3 only has 1. Some apps and games just won't work on the Nokia 1.3, whereas the Nokia 2.2 will run most games and apps. Maybe it might not be the best experience possible, but they will run. On the back, they look very similar. The Nokia 2.2 is glossier and shinier. You can see it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet, whereas the Nokia 1.3 is textured, less slippy, and less of a fingerprint magnet. And they look very, very similar. The cameras are very different. The Nokia 1.3 has a pretty basic 8 megapixel autofocus camera. This can record video at 720p, so standard HD, whereas the Nokia 2.2 has a 13 megapixel camera. It is a much better camera that can record video in full high definition. So camera-wise, this is definitely a better one, despite the Camera Go app that is featured on the Nokia 1.3. We did a dedicated video on that on the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel. Check that one out. Now, in terms of overall design, as I said, the backs are different in terms of the texture, but they have the same layout. So they have power and volume rocker buttons on the right-hand side when facing the screen, and they both have the Google Assistant button on the left side of the device. This is very useful. It's an entryway to make people aware of the fact that the Google Assistant is present on these devices. As I said, they're running a version of Android which is very similar to what Nokia and Google intend it to be. It's a very Google-like experience. So the main specifications, the Nokia 2.2 is definitely a step up. Is it worth that extra £20 if purchasing from Amazon? Or is it worth that extra £15 if purchasing elsewhere with a pay-as-you-go SIM card? That's a very difficult question in this price range. If you can afford to, I would definitely recommend the Nokia 2.2 or its newer version, the Nokia 2.3. If, on the other hand, you don't plan on using your phone a lot, you just need a basic device with basic media playback, whether that's video or music, I would go with the Nokia 1.3. If you're not too bothered by the overall experience of the software, you're happy with more network-based web apps, the Nokia 1.3 is a good option. Both these devices have courage boards. They have 3.5mm audio jacks, and both of them have micro USB for charging. Just be aware of that if purchasing these devices. They're not using the newer standard that everyone else is using, USB Type-C. And in terms of battery, they both have the same battery size. They both, in my experience, perform similarly. That's because the Nokia 2.2, despite being a more powerful device, has a more efficient chipset from MediaTek, whereas the Nokia 1.3 has an older chipset and sometimes for some apps is more intensive because, as I said, the Go version is more web-like. Less is going on the device. There's more work on the network, in my experience. But depending on your usage of apps and services, that may change. But for messaging, calls, basic web browsing, media usage, and some very light gaming, both devices are more than enough for most people. So, difficult decision, but you should be aware of the differences, and that's why we made this Tech Travel Geeks YouTube video. If you don't already, please do subscribe to the Tech Travel Geeks here on YouTube. This will not only support us, but you'll also be notified when we make our next video, which may involve Nokia, it may involve other brands. But for now, thanks for watching this comparison video. Goodbye.